Hi everyone, Elisa with Jots Designs. In this video, I'm going to be working with JDiction's Low Viscosity UV Resin, their UV light, some Chameleon pigment powder that is red, orange, purple, and yellow-green. I picked up some googly eyes from the Dollar Tree in colors and black and white. And I'll also be using a couple of JDiction molds as well. It's in their Halloween section. Now, I'd just like to start off by saying a couple of things. One, don't mind any random snorts or snores you hear in the background. That's just my puppy. And second, because of my full-time job and lack of time, I was in a super rush to get this video out no later than Halloween night. So I did a very poor job when making these. But I love the idea, and I will certainly be making more in the future at a slower pace to make sure I get everything right. If you'd like to see more future videos, please feel free to support my channel by using the super thanks button below the videos. Anything helps and is very much appreciated. To start, I brush on some of the Chameleon powder into the eye sockets. I did it this way so that way if I ended up not liking the way they turned out, I could just do them again without having to do the entire skull over. After the powder, I added a thin layer of UV resin and cured it, and that's just to keep the powder in place. Then I added eyes to both sides and gave that a cure. Then I topped the cavities with more UV resin. To bring out the colors in the Chameleon powder, I used black Sharpie to color the back and the sides of the eyes. I then did the same with the nose piece. I grabbed some of JDiction's white powder and painted the main part of the skull with it, just like I did with the eyes. I did a couple of layers of resin in this and let it cool in between each, as it got quite hot with so much resin all at one time, and it's still bendy when it's so hot. I've done this method of painting the mold with the powder before, but only with epoxy resin. It doesn't seem to work as well with UV resin, and not all of it sticks or cures well. You can see here where the powder stayed on the mold and not on the resin. Maybe I didn't cure it long enough, or I just had too much powder in those areas. I'm not really sure. Since those areas were a bit sticky, I added more of the powder to fill it in. Then I grabbed some silicone tape to use to hold it all together, as I basically glue everything together with more UV resin. I put everything together, but then decided that since the back side of the skull wasn't flat, I would top it off with some resin to flatten it out and make it stick better to the tape. Then I put it all together on the tape and filled in the gaps and the entire top with the resin. While that was curing, I decided to work with one of the other JDiction Halloween molds, and I used the same Chameleon powder on the raised parts. Then I added resin to fill the gaps and cover the raised areas and fished out all the bubbles. When I started to pull off the tape, there were bits down deep that weren't cured yet, so I stuck the tape back on and cured it upside down. I should have done that in the first place. After that, some of the marker stuck to the tape, and even though I used permanent marker, it can still easily come off plastic, which UV resin is, and that's okay. I just filled it back in. This is where I should have stopped with this piece, and I'll show you why in a minute here. Instead of stopping, I added more resin to the back to seal in the marker. I must have added too much because when it was done curing, there was a pool of resin underneath the piece, and that was uncured. I decided to just give up on that piece and moved on to the spider web. I did the same thing with the marker, but it wasn't covering very well. I tried drying it with my airbrush, but that didn't help really. And going over it with a paint marker wasn't working well either. I think I should have started with the paint marker in this case. But if I had more time for these, I would have used actual paint or even black epoxy resin. Epoxy resin for the whole thing probably, because they're large pieces. On the camera, it's harder to see where the same problem with the powder not sticking to the resin is, and the areas that aren't covered well by the marker and paint. So I just gave up on this one too, and sealed the back up with some UV resin. They may not have turned out well, but I do really like the ideas of what I was doing, and I think I'll at least give them a go again in the future when I have some off time, and probably use epoxy resin instead of UV resin. I hope you guys got some ideas with this video, and please let me know if you have any questions. I've got products and discounts listed in the description, and I'll see you next time. Bye.